Hey guys, so today we are doing Unit 2, Lessons 3 and 4. Lessons 1 and 2 you do not have, you do not need. I split your videos into two separate lessons. So this is the video for Lesson 3. When you have finished the problem set for Lesson 3, then watch the video for Lesson 4. So Lesson 3 focuses on the order of operations, or the order in which you do a problem. So it has a saying, just like some of the other ones, like King Henry. But this saying is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So the P, the please, it stands for parentheses. So you do those first. The next thing that you do is any exponents, if you have them. The next thing that you would do is multiplication and division from left to right. So whichever one comes first from left to right, that's the one that gets done. And then finally, any addition or subtraction that you have from left to right. So I'm hoping this is a little bit of a review for most of you, but if not, I have attached this chart onto Google Classroom so that you have it and you can pull it up if you need it. So let's just go over a couple of quick problems using the order of operations. So if I'm using the order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The very first thing that I need to do is this multiplication that falls inside of the parentheses, because parentheses come first. So if I was doing this, I would do 3 times 4, which would give me 12. And then I would pull down the whole rest of my problem. So I'd pull this plus sign down, I'd pull this 6 down, the minus, and the 2. So those would all come down, okay? So now I'm left with 6 plus 12 minus 2. So now using my order of operations, I have to do addition or subtraction from left to right. So the next problem that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 6 plus 12 because it comes first, it's on the left. I am not doing 12 minus 2 first. So I would just solve 12 plus 6, which would give me 18, and then I would pull down the rest of my problem. So I just pulled down the minus and the 2, okay? And then 18 minus 2 gives me 16, and this problem is solved, okay? So now, one other look at an order of operations problem. I have 4 times 4 plus 12 times 2. So I have to do what is inside of the parentheses first. So I'm going to do that from left to right, and I'm gonna go 4 times 4, which is 16. And if you want to pull down the whole rest of the problem, like I showed you, you can, or you could have just solved this one too. So that leaves me with 16 plus 24, okay? And then I'm done. So it is solved, okay? So if I am using the order of operations, I am now in Lesson 3 going to take the word form of these problems. I'm going to convert it from word form into standard form, and then I'm going to solve it, okay? So the first thing that I have to do is I have to read my problem. So this one, this is just an example, you don't have this one in front of you, is 3 times the sum of 26 and 4. So I have to figure out how to get from words to standard form. So if I had 3 times the sum of 26 and 4, I would want to have the sum of 26 and 4 3 times. So this is where a tape diagram might be helpful for you. So I would have 26 plus 4 right here. I'd have 26 plus 4 here. And I'd have 26 plus 4 here, because this right here, these are the sum of 26 and 4. So in order to get this, I would end up with 26 plus 4 3 times. So I would have 30, 30, and 30 in each one of these, okay? And if I added all 3 of these together, then my answer would be 90. So 90 would be my answer for that entire diagram. Now, the way that they want you to figure it out is they want you to be able to convert this into an order of operations problem. So if I was converting this into an order of operations problem, I would want to be able to say that it is 3 times the sum of 26 and 4. My parentheses are really important here because I need to add 26 and 4 before I multiply by 3. I would not want to do this problem without my parentheses because if I did, I would have 3 times 26, which is not going to give me the correct answer. So I want to show that I'm going to add these, just like I did up here, okay? And then I'm going to multiply it 3 times. So I would end up with 3 times 30, and 30 times 3 is 90, okay? So here's another one. So this is, again, just another example. This is 6 times the difference between 60 and 51. 6 times the difference between 60 and 51. So if I wanted to draw this out on a tape diagram, I would have it split into 6, okay, because 6 times, and then 6 times the difference between 60 and 51. So I would have 60 minus 51 here, 60 minus 51 here, and I'd have it here, 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 and here. I'm not going to write all those out. But when I subtract 60 and I take 51 from it, I get 9. So I have 9 and 9 and 9 and 9 and 9, okay? And if I added all of these up, or if I did the multiplication, I would have 9 times 6, which is 54. Okay, so if I added all of those up. But how do I write that in standard form? Well, I want to show that I want to do the difference between 60 and 51. I want to do that 6 times. So I would have 6 times the difference between 60 and 51. So I want to make sure that I'm multiplying 9 6 times. So when I do this, using my order of operations, I have to do what's inside of the parentheses first, and I'm going to pull down the rest of my problem. So 6 times 9 equals 54. Okay. Last example before we move on to the problem set. So this one, the sum of 2 12s and 4 3s. So the sum of those, 2 12s and 4 3s. Now this tape diagram, if I wanted to draw it out, would look a little bit different because it's the sum, it's not the product. So it's the sum of 2 12s and 4 3s. So I would have 12, 12, and then 4 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I would have to add all of those together. Now, another way that I can do this problem is I can say the sum of 2 12s, so 2 12s, and 4 3s. So the sum right here of 2 12s and 4 3s. So I would multiply the 2 times 12, I'd multiply the 4 times 3, and then I would add those together. And I would get the same thing as if I drew it out in my tape diagram and I added all of those numbers up off to the side. So if I was doing it using order of operations, I would have 24 plus 12 gives me 36. Okay? So let's take a look now at your problem set. So lesson 3 problem set. It says draw a model, then write numerical expressions. Now, an expression is something without an equal sign, so you do not have to solve these. All you have to do is get the correct problem written down. So if you would like to draw a model, you can. If you don't want to draw a model, that's fine. But either way, you have to write the numerical expression, or writing it in standard form using the order of operations. So in the first one, you have the sum of 8 and 7 doubled. So the sum of 8 and 7 doubled. So I know I'm going to do it 2 times. And I'm going to have 8 plus 7 here and 8 plus 7 here. Now, I can do it this way, or when I write it in the numerical expressions, I'm going to have the sum of 8 plus 7, so whatever that equals, right, because we don't have to solve it right now, doubled. And to double something, I multiply it times 2. And that's it. If you want to solve it, you can, but you do not have to. This is done. Okay, so I'm going to now do C with you. You're going to be responsible for B, D, and F. So C says 3 times the difference between 37 and 5/10 and 24 and 5/10. So I need to find that difference, and I need to find it 3 times. So 3 times tells me, if I'm drawing it out with my tape diagram, that I have to do it 3 times. And I'm going to be finding the difference between 37 and 5/10 and 24 and 5/10. And I would have that here, and I would have that here, and I would have that here. Okay? If I'm writing this out in numerical form with our numbers, I would want 3 times the difference between 37 and 5/10 and 24 and 5/10. So 37 and 5/10 and 24 and 5/10. And then if I wanted to actually solve that, I would do this step first because it's inside of the parentheses. I would then multiply that answer times 3. Letter E. So letter E wants to know the difference between 4 25s and 3 25s. So the difference between 4 25s, or 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25, or I'd much rather just say this. And then I want the difference between that one and 3 25s. If I wanted to write that all out in a tape diagram, I would have 4 25s, and I would take 3 25s away from it. And then, again, you do not have to solve this, but if you wanted to solve it, you would solve what is inside of the parentheses first. You would end up with 100 minus 75 once you solved these two, which would give you 25 as your answer. So you're going to be working on B, D, and F on number 1. Number 2 wants you to write the numerical expression in words. So now you're working backwards. So when I look at this expression, 12 times 5 plus 25, I would have to say in my head, well, how am I going to write this so that I'm telling people they have to do this first? So if I was writing this in words, I would say that this is 12 times, right? 12 times the sum of, that tells me that I'm going to have to solve this problem first, right? Because sum means the answer to an addition problem. So 12 times the sum of 5 and 25. And then for this one, it wants you to give the value of the expression. So this time around, you are going to solve this. So you're going to have 12 times 30. And you can all solve this, I'm confident, because this has a 0 at the end. So you're going to do 12 times 3, which is 36, and then add a 0. Okay? So I'm going to have you guys do B and D. And then number 3 has you comparing expressions using greater than, less than, or equals to. But you don't have to calculate them. So you should be able to figure out just by looking at these which one's going to be greater. So if you look over here, this one has 20 plus 5, or the sum of 20 and 5. The sum of 20 and 5. But this one multiplies it 24 times, and this one multiplies it 12 times. So that tells me automatically that this one is greater. And I want you to do B and C here. All right. Lesson 3, problem set, the word problems. You are welcome. You may skip them completely because we're going to work on some more word problems more in the following lessons.